our last question of the evening, and it comes from Neil Plucknett.
Oh, yeah. In what way does your leadership have the talent and the character required to take this country forward into the future?
Thank you. In what way does your leadership have the talent and the character needed to take this country forward? Jeremy Corbyn.
Leadership is about understanding the people you represent, is about being prepared to learn, is about not being so high and mighty you can't take advice. It is also about bringing people with you. It is also about ensuring that your responsibilities to protect the safety and security of everybody in this country and to lead a government that cares for everybody in the country and doesn't walk by on the other side when there are people that are homeless, there are people that are starving, and we have millions of our children living in poverty. It's leadership to lead a government that is prepared to say to our society, we cannot go on like this. We have to start putting more money into our public services and our resources. We have to have an economy that works for all, and we don't have to have a spiv economy that hands tax relief to the biggest corporations and the wealthiest people whilst ignoring the desperate cries for social help of so many people in our country.
Paul Nuttall, your leadership.
Well, I've never changed my stance, pretty much, on anything. I don't flip-flop. I've always been, for example, a Brexiteer. And look, you know, back when I joined UKIP, you don't join UKIP for a career. You join it because you've got principles. And our principle was simply this. We wanted to get our country out of the European Union, and we were very successful on June the 23rd. Last year. Now, what we've got to do is we've got to ensure that we get the Brexit that people voted for. A Brexit whereby we control our own borders and cut immigration. We get full control of our waters back and our fisheries. We take full control of our laws and bring them back to Westminster. We leave the ECJ and indeed the ECHR. We're free to sign our own trade deals all over the globe, and we're out of the single market. And most importantly, we pay no divorce bill to the European Union, because since we've been members, since 1973, we've paid £183 billion net in membership fee alone. I'd be strong enough going into these negotiations. I just hope the Prime Minister is as strong.
Would you refuse to pay your dues if you were going through a real divorce, then?
Sorry?
Would you refuse to pay your dues if you were going through a real divorce?
Well, look, listen, we have given...
Good question.
We have given that club 183 billion since 1973. We've got 9 billion tied up in the European Investment Bank, and indeed we own lots of its real estate.
We all know about blokes like you. We all know about blokes like you.
Don't talk down this country. We are the fifth largest economy
you want a free divorce?
in the world.
It doesn't happen that way. In the real world, there's no such thing as a free divorce. You have to pay your dues.
Look.
Okay.
This is all about...
Listen,
this is all about trade, and we have a huge trading deficit with the EU. They need us more than we need them. For God's sake, let's be confident about ourselves.
Amber Rudd, the question is about leadership, and the Conservatives have made a lot of noise about Theresa May's leadership, personal leadership. To that point about
300,000 people elected me to lead this party, and I'm very proud to lead this party.
I think the first rule of leadership is to show up. You don't call a general election. You don't call a general election and say it's the most important election in her lifetime, and then not even be bothered to come and debate the issues at stake. Now, I feel quite unique here tonight as a co-leader, and I'm proud that the Green Party pioneers new ways of doing things. We want to see job sharing in all kinds of aspects of our lives, because we believe that two heads are often better than one, and so I'm very happy to be there with my co-leader, Jonathan Bartley. But what leadership is about, it is about listening. It is about recognising that all of us have leadership qualities. And in particular, I think it's about trusting the public. And on that issue, I do not understand why this government will not allow the people to have the final say on the EU referendum. Why can we not have a ratification referendum when we see the final deal of what Theresa May or whoever it is brings back from Brussels? Why can we not trust the British people to have that final say? If they like what they see, that's great. But if they don't, the way to have another look at that is by voting Green, because we will say on that ballot paper that you should have the right to remain in the EU if that's what you choose when you see the small print. Because since this referendum was called, we have seen so many lies told.
I'm going to turn to Tim Farron. What are your qualities of leadership?
Well, good leaders don't run away from a debate, and Theresa May undoubtedly should be here. Without a shout, whatever we've discussed this evening, her absence is undoubtedly the shadow that hangs over this election. How dare you call a general election, then run away from the debate?
We're
all products of our upbringing. So I was brought up in Preston during the 1980s, and I saw people around me, what happens when a society, a community, is taken for granted, in that case, by a Conservative government with a colossal majority. Half my mates' parents out at work at any given time. And I am determined to build a country for our kids, mine included, where people are decent to one another, where people have enough, where we have a national health service that is properly funded. And that means being honest with the British people, saying we will put a penny on income tax to have the best health service in the world. It means stopping Theresa May's plans to do to your kids' schools what she's currently doing to our hospitals. And it also means if you want to lead the people, you have to kind of like them as well and spend time amongst them. And if you trust the people, then you do not impose that Brexit deal on the British people without them having the final say. Either the politicians will sign it off, or the people will. I trust the people.
Okay, I just want to turn to Angus Robertson, who hasn't spoken yet in this section.
So real leadership is about putting the country before you put your party. And I think we all now know that this was a totally unnecessary election, and the only reason Theresa May called it was that she thought she was going to have a massive majority as a result of it. Whatever happened to strength and stability? Where's strength and stability gone? Weak and wobbly is where we are, not so much the Iron Lady as the U-turn Queen. That is not the leadership that we require. In contrast, as leader of the SNP in the House of Commons, the third party in the House of Commons, I am proud that we have led the effective opposition when, sadly, the Labour Party has too often dropped the ball, asking questions not just about things that matter to people in Scotland, but the rest of the UK, in Europe and the world. And I am confident that the SNP will be returned to Westminster as the third party, because we need to protect our country from the Tories, who sadly, I fear, are going to win this election. I am working hard to win in every single seat in Scotland, Misha. That is our plan. But I believe people in Scotland realise that it's either the SNP or it's the Tories, and whether they're Labour voters, Liberal Democrats or Greens, they understand that if they vote for those parties, they'll be doing nothing but helping the Tories.
Angus Robertson, Leanne Wood.
You know you're losing 6 years.
I believe leaders should walk the walk and should be prepared to defend their politics and their policies. They should also be prepared to stick to their guns, and it's shocking that Theresa May has U-turned on so many things. There wasn't going to be an election. Now there's an election. There wasn't going to be a tax on the self-employed, or there was going to be a tax on the self-employed, and then it was abolished. And then there's this latest U-turn on the dementia tax. So I'm not one for U-turns. Plaid Cymru will stick to our manifesto promises, and Plaid Cymru will lead for Wales.
Thank you.